In the beginning of your writing career, how were you green on the business side of being a TV writer?
Oh my God, I was so green about the whole thing. It's, when you first break in, right, the Writers Guild, one of the main things that they do for us is negotiate the MBA, which is our minimum basic agreement with the studios. So there's set amounts that staff writers will make. So it's written down, it's like they're in a piece of paper. So you don't have to, there's not a ton of negotiation when you're a staff writer. But as you go on, like all of this stuff gets very complicated, and there's, issues of how long a studio can hold you and how much more they have to pay you to hold you. And it gets very complicated, which is why having a rep that you can communicate with is so important. Because I have literally just had to say to my agent and my manager sometimes, like, what does this mean? Like, I don't understand this. What does this mean? And, just in terms of how your career is going to build, it's sort of like an idea in the beginning, but it really is sort of one job at a time, one project at a time. Because my reps would tell you every time a project ends, I'm like, you're going to be able to find me another job, right? And they're like, girl, of course you're going to find another job, but I can't believe my own press. So I'm always like, am I going to find another job though? But it's, paying attention to the business, paying attention to all this consolidation that's going on. Are the people that you knew who worked at Netflix getting laid off, or did they survive the layoffs? Because sometimes you're reaching out to the people you know to say like, hey, I have this project and I'm looking for someone who might be interested in it. Does it seem to you like one of your overall people might be interested in this, or something, to your friends? And if your friends are in these mass layoffs, now they're off looking for different work. How systems change, having worked at Marvel TV in its old incarnation, and then that whole thing going away. So everybody I knew who worked for Marvel didn't work for Marvel anymore, in a matter of a year. So the whole Marvel TV landscape has changed. And so it's like, okay, who does work over there? Do I know anyone there? So you're constantly having to pay attention to the evolution of this business. There are people who choose not to. There are people who are like, that's just too much for me. I don't want to deal with it. I like to be informed about all those things. I think it's really important to me so that when my agent sends me something from a particular studio or a producing pod, that I am like, oh, they're connected to this place I don't really love. Maybe I don't want to look at this. Or, oh, I love that place. So yes, let's definitely work there. I just think that you're always educating yourself, not just about your skill set that you need as a writer, but about how to be a showrunner in the future, about how this business works, about what good representation looks like. I constantly have younger writers saying to me, like, oh, I'm having this problem with my agent, but I don't want to say anything. And I'm like, no, your agent works for you. They work for you. You want to have a good partnership with them, but they get paid because you get paid. So it's fine to go to them and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about X. Can we talk about it? And it's fascinating how many younger writers are scared to have those conversations. So, we're all encouraging them to go do that. But, there's a lot about it I still don't know. If you ask me to explain to you half the stuff in my feature contract, I would tell you I would need to talk to my feature agent again, because she explained it all to me and I remember half of it. But a whole bunch of it, I'm like, oh, I don't actually remember how that bonus gets triggered. I would have to ask my feature agent. So it's a lot. And it's really important to work with people that you feel like you can trust, who are giving you the best advice.
And a younger writer would be scared to ask or push the envelope because they feel like, I'm finally in the door, I don't want to jeopardize it.
That's it, absolutely. Like sometimes it takes so long to get repped. It's so hard to get representation, and they get scared of rocking the boat because they don't want to be without a rep. I had a conversation with a writer who gave me really wonderful advice, and it was that it is honestly better to be unrepresented than to have the wrong rep, because the wrong rep is holding you back. Like, it sucks to not be represented because there's stuff it's harder to submit for. You have to try to, like, can your lawyer submit you if you have a lawyer? it all gets very tricky. But if you have a rep who isn't doing the work, isn't sending you out on general meetings so that you can build a reputation amongst executives and amongst producers of someone they want to work with, they're not helping you build your career. And so it's fine to say, look, I totally get that you're super busy. Could you maybe put someone more junior on my team who can help me set up more general meetings? Because I really want to, get to co-EP in the next 5 years. And so I need to get out there and meet these people and be on that path. It's perfectly fine to say that, because you can frame it in a way that's not, you're not doing your job. It's, I totally get that you have bigger clients than me. So would it be okay if we tried this? And if they say no, they're not the right rep for you. They're just not.
Tips for the TV writer's room, like things that a new writer might not think of in terms of maybe where to sit. What if they're fidgety?
Yes. There are so many things that I feel like I talk about in the writer's room survival guide that will seem silly to people who have never worked in a writer's room, but they're so important. And so, for instance, the first day you get there and it's sort of like, where does everybody sit? If it's a returning show, there are probably people who already have seats that they like. So kind of like hang back and see what's going on. Or you can say, does anybody sit here? And they'll tell you if someone does or not, right? If you're the kind of writer who is very fidgety and like you like to draw constantly, or you're like a leg bouncer and you need to be bouncing your leg, or you take pens apart. I've worked with writers who do that. Don't sit by your showrunner, because your showrunner's attention is going to constantly be pulled to you, and that might be a problem for you. So sit across the room. Just sit across the room and do your thing you got to do to feel comfortable, but it won't be right in your showrunner's face. If you are the kind of writer who has to go to the bathroom every hour, sit closer to the door so you can just get up and slip out and come back in, and it won't be any big drama, because no one wants to be the person who has to walk across the entire writer's room every hour. It's like, nobody wants to do it. So just save yourself the problem. When it comes to lunch orders, this is a big one. So in a lot of rooms, the studio will provide lunch for the writers when you're meeting in person. And there's limits to how much you can spend. And so there's usually like an assembly of menus of places that you can go to, right? If it's your day to pick and you don't want to pick, just pass it on. Just be like, I don't want to pick today, someone else pick. If it's your day to pick and you know that the place you want to go is a place that everybody hates, please do not pick that place, because they're all going to be mad at you. If you notice that your showrunner's a little grumpy today and you know what his favorite place is, pick his favorite place. Because it's like he's going to be real happy when he's like, oh, we're going there today? Great. And suddenly his mood gets better. So it's a lot of silly kind of little things, but because it's a room full of personalities that have to find a way to coexist together, those things can be really important. So I hopefully people will think about those things when they walk in there for the first time.
Are writing credits your ticket to getting better and better work?
They can be, for sure. There are people in this business, and I will just say that, who are what we refer to as credit snobs, right? So, for example, when I was coming up and I had done 4 broadcast shows in a row, there were people at some of the streamers and stuff who were like, well, but she's only done broadcast. Well, then I went and did Cloak and Dagger, and I wrote a movie, and suddenly I was really cool, right? Because I had a cool credit and I had written a movie. And I'm like, what I did in those procedural rooms is harder than any of the stuff that you're like, ooh, she's so cool for. Because when you have to break a crime 16, 18, 22 times with the same character solving it, but you have to find a way to make it cool and different every week, trust me, that's harder than anything you're going to ask me to write in any of your snobby rooms. So that is a thing. And I will certainly say that, once I transition to more streaming content and that kind of stuff, the stuff that was offered to me definitely changed a little bit. So, you know, the fancy credits can definitely help you get to that place you want to go. What I always tell newer writers is, you know, it used to be that you couldn't get jobs on the fancy shows, but now you can because there's so many shows, right? And they sometimes still hire staff writers. But think about your career long term. So it's great that you did a couple of streaming shows and you got fancy credits, but you probably didn't go to set. You probably barely saw any cuts of the show, or you definitely didn't get to go to post. So your career needs those skills. So that's why I tell them, like, if you did a couple of fancy shows, go do a season of broadcast. And first of all, you're going to make better money because you just make better money in broadcast. And second, you're going to get a chance to do all that stuff you didn't get to do. And people, you know, broadcast is its own animal and it's a different energy. And there's something really pleasing about breaking a story, writing a story, going to see it shot, and it making it on the air in a reasonable amount of time. It's just really joyful for your friends to not constantly be like, when is your show coming out? And you're like, I don't know. So, you know, the fancy credits will help you get some of the cooler jobs, but they will not necessarily build the skill set that you need to become a showrunner and run your own show. So I just tell people to always think about that when they're looking at the jobs that are getting offered to them.